Welcome to Breakthrough Conversations, everyone. I am your host, Danielle Perry. I am so glad that you decided to tune back in for part 2 of Natyra's episode called Growing Up Fatherless. If you have not seen part 1, you will want to see it, so please go and check it out. In the meantime, here it is, y'all. Part 2. Be blessed. As a worship leader, how have you noticed these things that you're working on affect the way that you worship or lead worship, if it has at all? And if so, how have you allowed God to, I guess, help you in those moments where, you're leading worship. So how do you, as a worship leader, with these things that you're working on personally, still lead effectively and allow God to use you the way that he wants to use you?
God has shown me how to be transparent. Transparency is like you making a cake. Transparency is the flour. Ain't no, you can substitute eggs, you can substitute milk and butter, but you need, and I would say somebody who know how to make a cake is like, because actually, stop, don't mess up my metaphor, please.
Right.
It's basically, I would say as a worship leader, and I haven't written the book on worship, but transparency is just like the meat and potatoes of worship. If transparency is really, the church way of saying you just be real. Just like what's really going on. And to be able to just be like, all right, God, boom. I had a dream one time where, and I had to talk to a friend about it. I was like, I don't know what's going on. But in a dream, I wasn't wearing any undergarments. And I had on just a t-shirt. And somebody, a leader came in and could see my image. But I didn't have any, and I remember feeling like he's looking at me and he can see he's looking at me. And when I woke up, I was like, I don't have any kind of feelings or thoughts toward this person, and I hope I'm safe. I was scared, like somebody looking at my members.
Right.
And then when I talked to the person, they were like, no, that was just, the uncomfortable, because the person was fine and could see, because I remember the person doing this and looking in the mirror and being able to see, but the person was fine. And she was just like, that's where God is. The same comfortability you have where if I'm not dressed and my husband walks in, I'm like, close the door, man. And I'm just gonna finish getting dressed. That kind of, that's the way God wants us to be with him. Not like, oh wait, God, let me do my hair. Oh wait, let me, and that transparency in worship, it's just, I'm just here. And it's such a light, free feeling. Like right now, God, whatever this moment calls for, let's do it.
Yeah.
Whatever you want me to do, whatever you want me to say, let's do it. And that place of transparency and just, I don't care. I care because, you're on a team. So, I care about us staying in the groove. And what I love about the team that I'm with is, Natyra can, I'll change it up in a minute or I'll swing it back. Like we'll be on a whole nother spiritual song and I'll swing it back to the original song real quick. And when the team goes, it's just so much power.
Right.
But that is how God is doing it in that moment. In that transparency and like, all right, let's just go. And that dependency on God running the moment. Of course, you never come unprepared. So we've been working on the songs we want to do, and we got the specific parameters from the tracks to whatever we have. But still, but God, however this moment gonna go, let's do it. Right. I trust you. So that trust and transparency, I think that's what he's been working on me, because it is the opposite of what I tended to be and to show. I don't need people to think I'm vulnerable. I definitely don't need people to think I'm dependent on and I need them. But I have to in worship. Got to. Otherwise, it's just, the Natyra show. And while that can work, if I got enough talent, you know, it ain't full. You know, it's like that salad, and you like, why I'm hungry? Because you only ate bird food. That's just how I feel about salad. Sorry, salad people. I don't do salad. But you know, it won't. People might feel entertained or feel like, oh, that was so good. But like, did it change you? Like, did you when people see you free? They can, if they allow the moment to be a part of what's happening, what God is doing, they too can be free.
Yeah.
And it is a place where all dependency is just,
that's on God.
What's next?
You came up with the audience of one, right? Was that you?
The phrase?
The phrase, yeah.
Nah, I heard it. I don't know. No, I didn't come up with that.
Either way, that's always been you, you know, and me being on the team for actually several years now, I've always admired that about you and how you lead worship, because you always make it about God, you know, and it's not the Natyra show. It's not.
That good.
So I'm honored to be under your leadership, because you always do make it about God.
Oh, thanks,
so,
Danny.
Absolutely. So was there ever a moment of breakthrough for you as far as your dad is concerned? Was there ever a moment where you said, you know what? I've realized that although I've gone through these things with my dad not being there, God has shown me this, and I think I'm all right, or I think I'm getting to a better place. Was there ever a moment of breakthrough in that sort of realm for you?
Unfortunately, it was like our last moments. So Dad left. I was 6. He came back that one time. I was preteen or something like that. And then we didn't see him again. And then his dad died. Now, my dad lived in Florida. I didn't know that. Like, at one time, I heard he lived in Virginia. Another time, I heard he lived in Florida. I don't know where Dad was. But his dad still lived in New Jersey, and he died. And my cousin got in touch with my oldest sister. She sent her not mail, not email, something weird, like a gram, a something gram, a telegram. A telegram. I don't know how that worked.
Those still exist?
Right. She did.
Okay.
And I was 20. Montague and I were together. So, no, 20. I was maybe 23 or so, 22, 23. And my sister talked to us, and she was like, Grandpa died. And we've been invited to come up to New Jersey for the funeral. And I was like, okay, we could go. That'll be cool to do. Then I was just like, my dad might be there. And I was like, it is his dad. He might very well be there. And I hadn't seen him in so long. So he was there too. And it was awkward. But we tried to just like fake it and just talk like nothing had happened. What is there to talk about?
Right.
But so he was around for that. He was around for my wedding. He was there. He was not in it, but he was there. And then I was thinking, like, this could be cool, Then I, started having children, and I was like, they have a grandfather. And, but then Daddy was just still so inconsistent. I just remember being so annoyed, like, bruh, what are you doing? And then, God had to keep reminding me, like, you act like he's been doing this with you forever.
Yeah.
He has not fathered. So relax, right? So there was that whole season. And I just remember being always annoyed with my dad. Like, let me call Daddy. It's Father's Day. Anyway, Happy Father's Day, Dad. One year I sent him something, and he did not call or say thank you or anything. And Montague sent him a message. I didn't know, but he did.
Okay.
About, like, your daughter's feelings are really hurt. She's trying. And you haven't said anything to her. He checked him in some very nice Montague Blount way. He's just so wonderful, but he ain't no joke at the same time. Folks be sleeping on it, but they don't know. But that's okay. If you don't know, that's your problem. But I remember him like sending this message to say thank you. It was like a text or whatever. I was like, whatever. It's 5 days after, whatever. But so it was that kind of relationship, like whatever. And I didn't really see him. I saw him again when his mom died. And then we came back, and that's at that time I had 3 kids. Gideon was maybe 3, and I said, Montague, let's take all the kids up to New Jersey so they can meet my dad. I was like, I'm sure Dad will be there. We didn't really talk a lot, but we went and he was there, and I have a pic. It's such a good pic. I haven't framed it yet. I need to, but that picture on my Facebook account where it's me and Dad, that's that day.
Okay.
And we I remember like I sang at that funeral, and I was so nervous. I was like, I don't know if I want my dad to hear me sing because he's a singer.
And up until that point, he had never heard you sing, right?
No,
Yeah.
No. And I read something that they had me do. They had me do a whole bunch of stuff. I was like, what is happening? My name is not on this program. Either way, the program. So we took a picture with Dad. The kids got to meet him. That's the only time they met him. And it's funny because my relationship with Dad was just so funny because he said, he was like, the kids are really sweet. Maybe you should send them down to Florida for the summer. And I was like, okay, Dad. And then I got in the car. Montague was like, you did not like that, did you? I was like, no. I was like, what is he talking about? I'm not sending my kids to no Florida. Like, I was like, bro, please. Like,
I trying to find something nice to say.
I think so. He didn't know how to, So it was always like that. And then my dad, we found out he got cancer. He had blood cancer. And when we talked to him, he sounded so bad. And we were like, we need to go see Dad. So my sister and I, two out of 4 of us made it down to go see him. And by the time we got there, he was feeling better. But again, he was acting like arrogant. And we were just like, he fine. Let's go back home. So we came back up and he was doing well.
Okay.
And
how long ago was this? Give us a time frame.
When Daddy got sick?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of some, I don't know. I don't even remember how many years ago he passed.
Okay.
I can't remember. I just know when Daddy passed, we had 26 inches of snow. That last time when we got
that was about 2015, I think.
That's when he passed.
Something around there.
So he was sick maybe like a year or so when we found out he had cancer and all this stuff happened. But he got sick again, or he kind of relapsed, I think is what you would call it. And he was in the hospital. And he was having blood clots, stuff going on with his lungs and things. I called him every day. And calling Dad was laborious for me. It's like, let me call Dad.
I was going to ask,
Hey, Dad, how you doing? And they get off the phone like, ugh. So, but in the hospital, he just sounded so not good. I was just like, I got to call him every day. And I did. I called him every day. And then that last conversation, he was like, I'm feeling better, Natyra. They gave me the blood thinners and things. I think they're going to send me home. He said, it might not always seem like it, but I really do love you. And I appreciate you calling me and checking on me for all this time. And I said, I love you too, Dad. But that was the first time I really felt like I do love you. I love you. You all right. Like we trying. We gonna do what we do. We gonna make it work. And I remember feeling very hopeful. Like maybe it could be what it's meant to be for us. It might not be a regular, but maybe we could visit Florida. I ain't staying at your house. I stay at a hotel. But we could come see you, go to this little strawberry festival you're always talking about, and do some things, and maybe you can kind of get to know my kids. I never get my hopes up about stuff. But I was like, it might be okay. It could be an okay thing. And then he went home. They did send him home that day. 2 days later, he died.
Wow.
So I got a call that early that morning. His wife called me, and she said, she was crying, and she said, your dad just got, the ambulance came and got him. He's sick. She was like, he woke up, he couldn't breathe. I was like, oh man. I was like, all right, well, keep me posted. I remember not being worried. I was just like, keep me posted. Let me know. She was like, I'm on my way to the hospital. I couldn't get in the ambulance. And I remember going back to sleep. I told Montague, I said, Daddy's not feeling well. They took him to the hospital. I was like, she'll let me know. I went back to sleep. I honestly don't know how long I went back to sleep. I'm thinking 30 minutes or so. She called me back and said, your dad died. He died before the ambulance got to the hospital.
Okay.
So by the time she got there, he was gone. And I just remember the first thoughts in my mind, like, why she tell me first? I gotta call everybody. I did not want that responsibility. I had to call his sister, my sisters, and I was assigned by my brave sisters to be the one to call my mother as well. But I just remember not wanting to be that person, but I was the messenger. But either way, that conversation with my dad in that moment where I finally was able to say I love you and really mean it. Yeah. We were talking about love the other day, and love is like a really heavy weight. And I just don't think we're capable of loving completely. Patient, kind, keeps no record of wrong. Like, I just human nature, it really challenges us to love for real, like the real kind.
Oh, absolutely.
Because can I remember, do I love Montague? Yes. Can I remember a time he did something I didn't like? Yes. Like, I ain't forget. You think I forgot? So like, I was literally lotioning up the other day, like, but are we really capable of that when we read it? I'm not always patient with my kids, but I love them like nothing else, And I think when I said it to my dad that time, I think God gives us a bar for what love is, and we're always working.
Oh yeah.
Because even when he, when he's, you love the Lord with all of your strength, with all of your, and then, but when he talks about loving people, like, I gotta love you like how I love myself. But when we think about how we love ourselves, we're not even always good to ourselves.
Oh yeah.
Right? How many times have I done something like, dummy?
Yeah.
That's love,
right.
Natyra?
Yeah.
I do love myself. Like, but what I'm capable of, So within my capability, I do believe I love my dad. In that moment, that was like the first time. Because as a kid, you say it, but again, I don't think kids love harder than adults. But, that's coming from a teacher. I think they do because they're more trusting. Or more, doesn't take a whole lot for kids. With us, we'd be like, yeah, but what you gonna do? So I just feel like in that moment, that was the moment where I feel like I only really, really said I love you to my dad one time. For real. And that was it. And I really meant it. It felt like a very warm daddy-daughter moment. And that was the breakthrough. And then he was gone.
Yeah. So, yeah, that's good. I'm just kind of thinking about all that you just shared. So, you said you talked to him about how it made you feel when he left. What was his response?
So I didn't tell him how it made me feel.
Oh, okay.
He wasn't ready for that. He was never ready. I asked him, how could you? Okay. That's what I said.
Okay.
I was just like, Daddy, being a mother, and I know being a mother and being a father are two different things, but who are we to say that moms love more than dads? Like, right. That's not even, whatever. But I was just like, being a mother, having children of my own, I could never just walk out on them. I was like, how you do that? Yeah. I was like, how were you able to do that? It still doesn't make any sense when I think about it. How did you do that
It
and
doesn't
not
make
like
sense,
throw up?
honestly. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
To give context, the other day, Gideon, I signed him up for a theater program at my school. I asked him first. I said, "You think you want to do?" They're doing Moana. He said, "Yeah." The day theater started, I sent him a text because our school's in 2 buildings. So he was in the upper building. I was in the lower building. I said, "Don't come to the lower building. Stay in the upper building. Go to the science room." He went to the science room and saw big kids. He left and came to the lower building. I'm looking at him like, "What are you doing here?"
Right.
He's supposed to be up in theater. He was like, "Mom, I can't go." No. I went in there and I saw 7th graders and he was just looking like, "No, middle schoolers are mean. I'm not going up there." I was like, "Yo, it's fine. It's theater kids. Like, you're not dealing with the gangsters of the school." I was like, "It's okay." I was like, "But you have to go. You have to go." He was like, "No, Mom, you know, stuff like this makes me nervous. No." And I was like, "All right, I'll walk you." Now, mind you, I'm doing carpool. I gave my walkie to another teacher. I said, "I really have to walk him back up the street. He has to go." And I took him up there. And as we were walking, he was being very honest. He was like, "Mom, this kind of stuff makes me nervous. I saw those big kids. I don't know any of them." I said, "They have on masks." I said, "There are other kids your age in there. I promise you just have to wait and look." He was like, "No, Mom." The whole time he was saying no. We got to the room. I was like, "Look." He was like, "No." I was like, "You need to go in there." Like, he's the only one who would look at me and blatantly say no. Zemirah would never do that. Josh would never do that. They would say other stuff, but Gideon was just like, no. He was looking at me like, "Girl, what is you talking?" I said, "Nah." And I was like, "You got to go in there, right?" But I know the teacher. So the teacher came out and she knows Gideon. She was like, "Gideon, it's okay. Gabby's in there." That's her daughter. Gabby's in same grade as Gideon. She was like, "Gabby's in there. So-and-so's in there. So-and-so, you could go with Gideon." You know, and then she went back in the room. And I said, "All right, Gideon, go ahead." And this is me trying to like, meanwhile, I feel like crying. But I was like, "All right, Gideon," you know, he had tears, and Gideon does not like people to see him crying. Tears like sliding down into his mask. I was like, "Gideon, go in the bathroom, boy." And then she went in and thought he was behind her. He came back. He was like, I was like, "Gideon, you need to go in there." He was like, "All right, well, let me just go in the bathroom and wipe my face." I said, "You better not hide out in this bathroom." He was like, "I'm going to wipe my face and I'm going to go." I said, "All right, I'm leaving." So he went in the bathroom and I left. I was like, "I hope he goes in the room." I felt so sad. Because at first I was going to be like, "All right, don't worry about it. Just, you know, Leia, just give somebody else." Because it was a closed, she opened it so I could sign Gideon up. And she closed the application. She opened it for me as a favor. And I was like,
yeah.
And I felt so bad. And that's just me dropping my son off at a theater program at the same school where I work with a trusted adult that I know and kids.
Yeah.
I can't fathom leaving. Y'all figure it out. You figure, Montague, I'm so mad at you. You figure it out. I can't, it doesn't make sense. Like, it just, it's like eating deodorant. Who does it?
Yeah.
You know, I'm just like, I thought about it because I saw somebody do it before. I think she had pica or something like that. Anyway, so I asked him, I said, how could you do that? And he said, "I wanted to hurt your mother."
Wow.
He said, "I wanted to hurt." That was his answer. It was the answer. You know, I mean, it wasn't great, but that's literal. He was like, "I wanted to hurt your mother." I was like, "Yeah, but there were 4 girls." And he said, "I know."
Was he ever apologetic?
He was remorseful. I don't think Daddy ever said sorry. I didn't need that from him. I think it was good for him to see that his girls, we some beasts. You know, I'm not here to brag, but we beat them stats. Fatherless girls growing up in the hood. You got a Marine. You got my sister's like vice president of this corporation, and we all doing what we doing. You know, Shantae's living up in New York, just being a boss. And I'm here in Baltimore City doing what I do, and loving it. And you know, that life gave me the heart I have for children, the life I had to live as a child. I just really love kids. And Joshua said, "Mom, you always like the kids that the teachers don't like." I'm like, those be my jams. Yes, I do. And they love you back.
Yeah.
But he I think Dad got to see what he missed out on. all these beautiful grandkids, and you know, you could have been a part of all this, but you weren't. You back, but you still on the outskirts, kind of, sort of, because you don't know how to get in. Like, you don't know how to mingle in, because you've been on the outside of this. You don't know the backstory. You don't know nobody's backstory. Only part of our backstory that you know is that our father left us. That's all you know. Yeah. So he wanted to hurt my mother, and I understand that adults do things that affect children without considering the effect that they have on the children when they do stuff. Yeah. Well, that was basically his answer. He wanted to hurt my mother, and I was just like, but we were all. But what I didn't want to do is tell him what he already knows. He knows we were on that struggle bus. Like, why? Why go through describing the experiences with other men in the home, you know, or not ever having enough, or just trying to do it, trying to for my mom trying to put her life together after you tore it apart, and take care of 4 girls. You did that. But what's the point of taking him down that road? And he would say stuff like, I used to love Christmas, but he said every Christmas I would just go fishing and I would cry. You earned that. Wow. That you did that, not me. Wow. So I feel like God dealt with my dad over those decades of him being gone. And I don't think my dad was out there living this great bachelor's life. I think my dad was tormented and in his mind, and was never whole, because your kids are your purpose if God entrusts you. It's a childbirth is a miracle. It's not a light thing, like, oh yeah, I just baked that cake. No, a child manifesting up in here, coming out and growing healthily or whatever, it's a miracle. And only God can do that. Yeah. You know, we think we're in charge of it, but we ain't. I was on birth control pills when I had Zemirah. So we think we in charge, but we ain't. And when he gives that to you and allows that, that's your purpose right there. Ain't about you no more. Yeah. And when you forfeit and relinquish that gift, then you ain't, in my opinion, people can argue with me if they like, you know, I'm not going to argue back with you, but you ain't whole, because you ain't do what you were supposed to do. Now, did God work it out for our good? He did. And his plan is perfect. But we have free will. I have a choice to take responsibility for the gifts that he's giving me and my children, or not. You know, whether I'm in the home or not. So you forfeited that. And now you see, you know, you just see what you missed.
Yeah. So you said that it was your dad's first time hearing you sing at the funeral. So that was a commonality that you and your dad shared, right? Yeah. Had you ever heard your dad sing before?
I did. Daddy used to sing all the time. So Daddy would have, like, he had this whole group. They were similar to, like, Temptations kind of men's doo-wop. Yeah. And yeah, I heard that. He had Daddy had a high-pitched voice. You know that song, oh, the reasons that we're
First of all, the way you started that just now, you added your own flair.
He did that, didn't he? But you know that song?
I know the song.
Okay.
The falsetto, the high.
That's how Dad.
Okay.
Dad can sing like that.
Okay.
Oh, he could. I did not.
Yes, you
Joshua
did.
accuses me of over singing songs too. Anyway, and Zemirah. He he said he didn't sing anymore, but which is weird because that's one of the reasons he left. To go on the road.
Okay.
So for him to say I don't sing anymore was weird. Like, what you mean?
Yeah.
You ain't never gonna hear Natyra say that unless my throat break.
Hold on. Your throat.
So, yep. But I knew Dad was a singer. I didn't know he was a songwriter. He was that too. So yeah, that was a commonality that we had, and I knew that I got that from Dad. Now, Dad had a high pitch. As a kid, I sang soprano, barely, but my mom has a heavier voice. So the heaviness of my voice comes from my mom, but Mommy can't sing.
Don't put Mom on blast. Don't put her on blast.
Mom loves music, but Mama cannot sing. So I know I got the gift from my dad.
Okay.
My love for music from both of them. Because Mommy would play them records all day.
Okay.
But when I sang at that funeral, all these family members I didn't know, they were like, "Girl, you sing just like your father. You think?" And my dad was like, "Yes, I have passed the torch down to Natyra." I looked at Montague. I said, "I know my father." I said, "You hear what Daddy just said? What is he talking about?" I was appalled. To pass the torch, you need to be near somebody. What are you talking about? That's a whole different story.
I'm only laughing because of how you're explaining it.
I was literally appalled. Montague was laughing too. I was like, "Did you hear what he said?" Let me go over and get some of this potato salad if I say something. But he kind of did. I mean, you know, the love for me, it was always happening. I remember he would have rehearsals and stuff. And I remember as a kid, I'd be like, "Yo, they got pretzels. Like, can I go down?" And he would not let us come. He would not, we couldn't be a part of it. We could hear it. There were great harmonies and there was a band. And I know I got that from Dad. So, you know, some torch. That's funny, Daddy. That was funny when you said that. What are you talking about? Okay, kind of true, I guess.
Oh, man. So, as we're wrapping up, how are you today as your 41-year-old self compared to that 20-something-year-old who had kind of that breakdown in college, like, man, I don't have my dad, and then that 6-year-old, which was the age you were when your dad left. How are you now at 41? Just give us kind of a brief just explanation of how you are now at this point.
Okay. You said brief because do you think I'm going to take long?
No, because I have one more thing for you to say.
It's like, I'm better for it, Danielle. I'm better for it. I am, I understand the full circle of what God does when we make decisions, even when we make poor decisions. I'm not going to say my dad was destined to leave his family. I just don't believe that. I think my dad chose to leave. But God was like, all right, let me make this happen with this, and this. And of course, there is that effect on each of us, you know, us girls and my mom. But I feel like now I have never will be able to say that I have arrived. What does that even mean? Right. For a girl whose dad left. You don't arrive, sweethearts. You don't. But the same way, you know, I just looked at somebody who got a scar. Oh, that's Jared. Jared has a story for that scar on his eye. You know, like, there's a story where something really bad happened. I have a story for when our house caught on fire. Terrible thing that happened, but just this great overcoming story. And I've been friends with Natyra for a very long time. And I forgot what we were talking about. Oh, probably talking about my mom. There's a lot going on with my mom right now. And she said, Natyra, you are an overcomer. And she said it so, Natyra is a prophetic woman. And she doesn't make, when she's really on a roll, she does not make empty blank statements. And I was like, okay. Like, I'm an overcomer. Natyra told me. But like, I never thought of myself as such, but I am.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And that's just the way that it panned out, because God's plan is just perfect. And I know, as a 41-year-old woman, like, I know that there's always going to be something that God's going to have to fix in me because of Clifford. Like, I know, and that's okay. I've gotten to a point where I am okay with that. I might think of something or see something that breaks my heart real quick for a second. But then I know that God did what he needed to do for us. I was watching This Is Us, and they show the part where the father's, Jack's mom, his mother died. And he got home, and he, went through this whole process and went to the hometown and buried his mother and everything. He got home and was talking to his kids, and he had to excuse himself from the kitchen. And his wife came in, and he looked at her, he said, I don't have a mother anymore. And then he started crying, and I started bawling. And I was like, Montague, that's how I felt when my dad died, because there was always like, and maybe we'll have this funny little awkward relationship, but we'll have something. And, I can still say I have a dad, and I can still, but when he died, it was like, oh, that is over. Like, that's the end of the story. Like, it's not, but I felt like, but I just know that, it's a part of who I am. It's not my whole story. It's a part of it, though. It's a very important part. It's a very big part. And it comes out when I get the opportunity to teach. It comes out when I worship. It comes out in how I raise my children. Not in unhealthy, you've been traumatized kind of ways, but just, I understand what it could be. Or, I have these very, very strong convictions because of, and it makes me better. And it's just a, part of my puzzle.
Yeah. I think that's key what you said, just honing in on that part about not in an unhealthy way, right? Because as you even explained earlier, though, there are still parts of you that you're working on due to your dad leaving. Just like any of us who've had some type of trauma in our lives, there are parts of us that we still may need work with. But the fact that we're not living out of a traumatized state, I think that's what's important. Even as we're working on those other areas, if we're not living out of our trauma, I think that's what's important. And it can be difficult, but God is a deliverer. He's a healer.
Yep.
And I believe that he can get us to a point where, I don't do that no more.
Right.
Because of that.
Yes.
So, well, thank you so much, Natyra. I just want you to speak to our audience before you leave.
Okay.
And just give them advice. Anybody who has walked through your shoes or similar shoes, what would be some advice that you would have for them?
I have, as a school teacher, and I know school teachers can relate to this, there are children in our school who have reputations. And you'd be like, don't you put Balik in my class. I done seen him in first grade, raising everything. Don't put him in so-and-so's homeroom, not mine. And it's unfair to do that because you do not give them a do-over. When I went to my dad's funeral, The only people I knew there was Aunt Kathy, his sister, one of her daughters, my cousin, and my sisters. And then my husband came, and my sister's my brother-in-law, my brother, really. But all these other, we did not know them. And somehow, Pastor Lawrence is there, and PK's mom was there because she knew somebody.
That's interesting.
This goes on.
Oh, because he lived in Florida.
Yeah. So
okay,
she was there.
Okay.
But she was like, I'm gonna make my way over to the repass. I see you there. All right. But either way, all these other people we did not know. They were probably looking at us like, those must be his daughters. I mean, we really look like our dad. And they had so many great memories of my dad. He was like this saint. They just loved him. He was just this kind and giving and helpful and funny, and none of them said he could sing though. So I don't know if any of them were able to partake of that part of my dad. But remember, he said he didn't sing. But what's funny is my dad he had a do-over. So when it was our opportunity to speak, I could have gotten up there and been like, y'all think y'all know. Let me tell you something about Clifford. But I was just like, what am I gonna do that for? And, I spoke about my dad. I spoke about things I learned from him, or really learned them from his absence. And I never directly said it, but the people who knew me knew the angle from which I spoke. But we have to understand that the people who hurt us, especially people who are really supposed to never hurt us. Your father is never supposed to hurt you. Not hurt your spirit, not hurt your soul. He might hurt you, I'm gonna hurt you because you broke something or, whatever, but he's not supposed to. So when we get, hurt, and I think that's what makes it traumatic. You're supposed to love me harder than anybody else in the world, like you're my father, right? But whenever we experience those things, we can do ourselves a great service by remembering that our point of view is not the only point of view. And what I had to do, especially at that funeral, because I was like, is you kidding me? Like, what? Who is this person there? I never knew. But to understand that my dad has a story. Part of his story is that he abandoned his family. But my dad has a story. And if being able to step away from what you have done to me, and this is why A, B, and C, and how this affects me, and to understand, that was probably hard for you living with that. You ever do something? You ever just do something and you don't reconcile it, and it's just in there? Like, even if it's little, like, I lost her pen. I borrowed her pen and I lost it. But you never go back to that lady and say, Miss So-and-so, I lost that. I know you said that was your good pen. I lost it. Can I order you one on Amazon? Like, you never go fix it. So every time you see Miss So-and-so, you're like, that pen, boy. Every year at Christmas time, I don't think Daddy knew our birthdays, to be honest, but Father's Day, Mother's Day, whatever. He was reminded, you got 4 whole souls that came from your loins that you have no connection with. He had to live with that for decades. He got sick and left this earth early. If we could step away from our hurt and understand that there is something going on the other side of that person, I think we just do ourselves a service of just kind of not focusing on our hurt. We're focusing on the fact that, we're all people. And, we hurt people by mistake. Sometimes we hurt people and we know we're hurting them, or whatever. And it's just not always easy to not hurt people.
Yeah.
If we could just see it from the other point of view as best we can. Sometimes you can't. It could help you. But then also to just say, I think I'm going to choose, I'm going to choose not to be hurt. If it hurt, it hurt. I think I'm going to choose not to be bitter.
That's good.
I think I'm going to choose not to hate you. I think I'm going to choose not to wish that something bad would happen to you so you could know how I felt.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to choose to live today not only being a product of what you have done to me. I think it'll help us grow. It'll just make us, stronger for it. These things happen. We can't control them. I didn't do something to my dad and then he was like, no, I can't take it. I'm leaving because of you. Well, my fault. And really it was my mother's fault. He chose to go do something else. So, just not being so focused on us and our hurt can help us get past the hurt, because it does hurt, but it can help us get past it. And I think aside from long as I got King Jesus, like aside from that, it'll just start to help you realize that there is a wound there so that it can then be aired out and start to get that little scab on it and then start to heal. Might not ever look the same, but it'll get better. You can't wear Band-Aid all the time. No
That's
air
right.
gets to it and it gets all nasty and it's funny and so if we could do ourselves a service by not swimming in that hurt and not just laying in it and then just wearing it like a blanket of like, you don't know what I've been through. Like, okay, we all been through something. But it doesn't have to be your 100% of everything you
That's
are.
right. That's right.
I don't know if I answered the question
Yeah,
right.
you
I
did.
feel like I'm talking a big old
You
circle.
shared it from your heart, so absolutely. Well, this was an awesome conversation, Natyra, and thank you for your transparency as always. I know that it's going to help somebody.
I hope so.
So thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny.
So thank you everyone for joining today. A scripture comes to mind just from having this conversation, and that's when mother and father forsake you, the Lord will take you up. And so be encouraged by that scripture today, because some of us have lived that journey of a parent not being there. But we have to know that God is always present. And so I just encourage you to keep trusting God, keep depending on him. Know that he's the best parent. He's the best daddy. Abba Father is who he is. And so be encouraged. Know that God loves you. And thank you for tuning into this episode. And I hope that you'll tune in to future episodes. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Leave in the comment section something that you liked, something that stood out from this episode today. And yeah, thank you. God bless.